Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 25th episode of the Millennial Athlete podcast with Tanvi and Shlok, a podcast of, for, and by the millennials. I'm your host, Shlok Ramchandran.
And I'm your co host, Tanvi Lad. Welcome back, Shlok. I hope you've recovered from COVID and good to see you back.
Yes, I am back. 2 weeks of isolation. I missed the last episode. That's a different ball game altogether. But on the 25th episode, I've got a former teammate on the pod. So even if I would have had COVID, I would have somehow found the strength to have continued. I'm so happy to say that we've got Kidambi Iceman Shrikant with us on the podcast today. Hi Shrikant, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
All good, feeling better. COVID times, but yeah, I mean, getting much better.
Then you should be interviewed by Tanvi in one of the episodes and tell everyone that how you should do or what you should do to recover and how you should motivate yourself. I think you are the one who recovered from COVID, and then it's a big thing now.
I asked him a couple of times, how are you feeling? And he was like, I'm fine. My back is aching. I think umar ho gayi meri. I said, तूने बहुत training किया है. You must have followed him. I think he trains harder than you must be training before the Olympics.
Yeah. I've been seeing all his videos on those on that what do you say, on that
CrossFit.
ladder, on that terrace.
अरे he
21
burns
terrace videos.
the track. गोरेगांव स्पोर्ट्स क्लब का ट्रैक तो अभी इट्स बर्न्ट.
थोड़ा बहुत अभी करना पड़ता है. Even though I don't play pro anymore, the sport doesn't go out of me. You may take out the pro sport out of me, but you cannot take the sport out of me. Anyways, just let's get right into it. Shrikant, back from the European circuit. It was a long European tour.
Yeah, it was a 4 weeks tour.
4 weeks. 4 weeks, obviously, there was a change of in the bubble environment. It was very strict at the All England. It was a little okay at the Swiss Open. Your overall thoughts on how the whole European tour went for you?
Well, I think Swiss was very good for me. I would have liked to, or I would have hoped to be playing in German as well after Swiss, but unfortunately, German got cancelled, and then we were in Swiss only, and we trained for a week in Zurich, and then we went to All England, and then a lot of things have happened, and then it was kind of very strict, and then I couldn't really practice before my match, and then they've released the schedule about at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and then my match was at around 1 o'clock, so I couldn't really do a lot of things before my match, which I normally do. And then I think Orleans was again fine. I played well. Just that opponent played really well on that day. That's it. Otherwise, it was a good Europe trip, but I would have hoped to be playing in German as well, because that's part of the Olympic qualification.
Looking forward to the India Open?
Pretty much, yeah. Initially there were 4, and then it got to 3. So I really wish at least these 3 tournaments happen.
Yeah. But Shrikant, we all saw what the Thailand Open was like. I mean, of course, coming back to competing after a long break, living in the bio bubble, multiple COVID tests. You had even put up pictures of a bleeding nose. Can you take us through the whole experience of sport in post-COVID?
Well, there's a drastic change. Pre-COVID, post-COVID, it's 2 different things. I don't feel like I'm playing I don't feel like it's the same way that we used to travel to a tournament. So you have to get a test here, then reach there, then get a test, and then you have to stay inside the room until you get the result, and then you have another test before the tournament starts. So there are a lot of things, and then there are a lot of false positives as well. So you don't really know what will happen. And also, normally, there's something called active recovery after every match. You walk, you go out for a walk, you go out, walk for a restaurant. So there are a couple of things that really helps you recover for the next day's match. But now it's more about staying in the room, not being able to go anywhere. In some tournaments, you're not even allowed to go out of your room. even to corridor. So it's getting really tough. In Thailand, I was inside my room for a week continuously,
Oh my God.
even though after I tested negative a couple of times. So it was tough. Yeah, a lot of things have happened. I don't really think it's the same way that we're traveling or playing. So the pre practice or a pre-match practice in a tournament is really very different now. In Thailand, they used to give us a small room where we have to sit inside, probably until, if our practice is from 7 o'clock, we are allowed to only enter into the stadium at probably 6:55 or something. So you don't really get to warm up much. You have to right away. You have to get into the court, and if you choose to do a warm up for about half an hour, and then they've only allotted us for about an hour, and then you'll have to leave 10 minutes before.
Okay.
So you get to play only 20 minutes. So there are a lot of changes, and it's getting a little difficult now for everything. You can't really go to a gym at your own preferred time. You have to book a slot, or they will only give you a slot. It can be any time. It can be at 8 in the evening, or at 6 in the morning, or it can be at 12 in the afternoon. So they'll decide what time you have to do a gym. So yeah, a lot of things.
Yeah, I think, being a former player, what you enjoy, one of the things which I enjoyed during tournaments was going to a 7-Eleven and, going to the grocery shops and buying something for our rooms. I mean, stuff like those are now out of the picture, and you can't even think about doing all of that. I remember, when we were all going in teams, we would go to 7-Eleven, buy our stuff, whatever, because you are in the room, you need something or the other if you feel hungry. But now, when I spoke to Arjun and when I spoke to Dhruv, they are like, that is out of the question, Shlok. We can't even think about going to a grocery store.
Yeah, you're not even allowed to go out of your room. You can't even walk in the corridor. Like the same floor corridor, you're not allowed to walk. So forget about going anywhere else. And then nowadays, I'm traveling with about 10 kgs of food in my suitcase. So I have to eat. You can't really train, and then you don't know what food they'll give you.
Yeah.
So in UK, they've given us a menu. There isn't anything called rice in that whole menu for lunch or dinner. They had rice for breakfast, but not for lunch and dinner.
Oh my God.
So I need rice for lunch and dinner. So it's really tough. Without eating a proper food, you can't really play a match at your best.
Yeah.
And then that is how you get injured. If you don't eat well, and then if you push yourself too much, there is a higher chance of getting injured than having a proper food, taking proper rest, and doing everything. So
Yeah.
I think BWF should really work on that food element, because that is one of the very important aspects or the key areas for any athlete.
True. I mean, yeah. I mean, as you said, that if you're not given the right nutrition, because your body is used to a certain kind of food, right? I mean, when you are pre-COVID, you had the option of restaurants. Now जो मिलता है वही खाना है, कोई ऐसा option तो है नहीं. So I think, for different athletes, there should be at least option A, option B, option C, depending on which part of the world he's from. Maybe if you are from Europe, you don't eat a lot of rice, but especially a lot of Asian countries and players from the Asian countries have a lot of rice. So
they had a lot of Italian options or a European style of a food. It suits all the Europeans and maybe people from UK or something, but we Asians, I think we need rice. So they have to think about it. In UK, they've only provided all these, steamed chicken or mashed potatoes and all that stuff. There hasn't been a proper meal.
True.
So,
But Shrikant, you mentioned that you were stuck in your room for a week. Now, that's not a very ideal situation mentally, because an athlete who's left alone with his thoughts is it's like a devil's workshop. So, I mean, of course, we've seen you transform mentally from the, you've like Shlok rightly said, it's Shrikant, I see Kidambi right now. So, what is this? How do you deal with, the mental chatter when you're sitting alone in a hotel room?
See, it was very tough for me when I was there, because Sai tested positive, and then I was sharing room with him. So even I wasn't allowed to go out of the room, and then I actually took another room and moved there. And then Sai was taken to hospital. And yeah, the first 3 or 4 days I couldn't really meet anyone. Even Kiran sir isn't allowed to come and see me. So yeah, we were staying like kind of in opposite rooms, but he was training me in a Zoom video call.
Okay.
So 1 week, because there's the Super Series finals the next week, and I was already qualified. So I kind of had to do something, because I can't sit idle in the room without doing anything for a week, and then
Without
then
any
go
court
tournament.
practice, right? You didn't have any court practice because you were
No.
confined to your room.
No, I didn't have any court practice. So we did some training on that Zoom call. That's it.
Yeah, man. But yeah, again, right now I see with social media, and I see a lot of trolls, coming, as soon as if a player doesn't do well, they don't really go in depth and understand why things aren't going really well. Like, you had 3 extremely close matches at the Super Series finals. It could have gone anyways. But when you see trolls, and because I am also active on Twitter, I make sure that I am critiquing about the match and not the personal life or the livelihood of a player. But when you see trolls like कि श्रीकांत को अभी गवर्नमेंट सपोर्ट नहीं करना चाहिए, उसको खेलना बंद करना चाहिए. I mean, I'm sure you tried to shut it off. This has been your life for a very long time. But I just want to understand, when you see those trolls and you are confined in your room, there is not a lot of mental activity. How do you try to deal with all the social media engagement going on, especially when times are not right and you are struggling with your form going up and down?
See, first thing is that I don't see any of those comments. That is why I'm not on WhatsApp. I don't normally see the comments on whatever platform, Twitter, Insta, or whatever it is. And the next thing is that, I know that I am not going to a tournament to lose.
Yeah.
I'm going out there with everything that I've got. I'm playing with my 100%. And the only thing I think about is that the moment I finish a match, win, lose, whatever the result, the moment I come out of the match, I have to be happy with the performance, with my performance. I should not have any regrets. So even if I lose, I try and give my 100% till the last point. And even if I lose, I'm still happy because I gave my 100%. Now somebody has shown me that I need to work on a couple of things and get better. So I'll go back and work on those particular things and get better, and try and get better at least for next tournament. So I don't really think or focus too much about what the others are saying, because they don't know what I am going through, or the struggle that I've been
Exactly,
through, or
exactly.
hard work that I've put in before I go to a tournament. So I don't really want to think about I don't really want to give so much attention to what others think. It's more about me for me. I have to be happy. I should not have any regrets after a match. And then I should give my 100%. If I don't give 100%, I myself will not be happy. And then I'll definitely blame myself. And then it'll be internal. I don't really want to put it on social media that I blame myself for this loss.
Yeah.
So I don't really announce anything on social media.
Correct.
So it'll be internal for me. So I think purely from my perspective, if I really played well and if I still lost, then there's scope for me to improve. If I played well and I won, then I'll go to the next round with the same confidence.
So the focus is basically on the effort you're putting. You basically
On the effort, yeah. It's basically,
I mean,
it's just that process. I really want to train hard, go to a tournament, I win, I'm happy. I lose, I'll work on things that really didn't work for me, and then I'll go to the next tournament and try and give my best. That's it.
Fantastic. Basically the ability to be neutral, irrespective of you win or you lose. You are focusing on the process that you are putting 110% every time, irrespective practice or a tournament.
Or a
That is
tournament.
what you are focusing on, and trusting it that hopefully it comes through.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very interesting because, very often when athletes are going through a bit of a rough patch, you're asked to think about why you started playing the game. And when you started playing the game, or when you switched from, playing mixed doubles and doubles to becoming a singles player, it was purely, the all about the experience. You were loving making that switch. You were loving the training. You were doing well. You were getting results, and the high just, you kept putting in more and more effort, and that was your journey. And uh, you know throwback to when you became world number one, when you won those 3 super series titles, and it was a different high altogether. And so it's very often very easy to troll someone or point fingers at someone, but an athlete's life is, he started playing for the love of the sport. And I mean, really feels good to hear that love hasn't died down at all.
Yeah, I think see, the only reason I'm still able to go practice every day is that I still love playing the sport.
Yeah.
So you can't be forced to go and play a sport, and then you can't like if you don't really love playing the sport, I don't think you'll be able to excel in that sport or in any particular field, whatever it is, not just sports, and even in education. So you have to love what you're doing. Only then I feel you will excel. And yeah, I'm still loving the sport. I still love to go, to the academy and train every day.
On
But
that note, yeah, continue.
before we
Continue.
take a break, I mean, I just wanted to go back to that purple patch that you had. You became world number one. You won 3 super series titles in a row. What was it? Was there anything specific training wise? Was it a mental switch that you felt? Was it an approach to the game that was slightly different? What was it?
See, I think there might be many reasons. I might even not know exactly what had happened, but I feel Mulyo really made a big difference. And everyone around, Kiran sir, I think he really kept me fit. And then the other coaches at the academy who really helped me, and I think the other players who really supported me. And then I think of everything, I think Mulyo was one of the biggest change. And I think when I won Denmark Open, I think Gopi sir was there. So I think it's been very supportive. I think one of the is very supportive. I think is one of the best coaches that I've trained under. And he's always been supportive since the day I joined the academy. I think he's been very supportive. And he had a very big role in me shifting from doubles to singles also. So I think these are the reasons I feel.
On that note, we'll take our first break. On the other side of the break, we'll talk about Kidambi's icy cool temperature and temperament on court, as well as his relationship with his family. Stay tuned. You guys are listening to the Millennial Athlete with Tanvi and Shlok. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're listening to the Millennial Athlete with Tanvi and Shlok. We still have Iceman Kidambi Srikanth with us. Srikanth, talking about your temperament on court, it hasn't always been like this. I remember in the under 19 days, you were a little bit more aggressive on court, and even during the early phase of your men's singles career, you were slightly a little more aggressive player in terms of your body language, which has eventually moved into more like a Federer kind of a temperament on court, where it is where you are not shouting or howling on court, but it is you just feel a little more confident on court, and even that there are no those big celebrations even if you win a match or something. Can you talk about this switch, and how over the years is it something you've done consciously, or is it something just happened naturally to you?
Oh, it is very consciously done. It was a big effort because I wasn't like this from the beginning, so it was a big switch. And the main reason is Gopi sir for sure, because I've lost few matches having a big lead in a very crucial tournaments, and then I used to lose my focus a lot of times, and then so that's when he came and he has helped me a lot in this transform or in this transition from that being very aggressive to being very present, being able to present at the situation. And I think it really helped me because if you the moment you don't celebrate too much, and then the moment you start thinking about immediately about the next point, you are right there in the game. You're not losing your focus even for one point, which is really important.
Correct.
After 15 all or 16 all, it's very important. Every point is very important, and at such a high level, every point is very important. So after 15 all, 16 all, I try and stay more focused because every point is important. And I think not celebrating after a match, I don't know how it happened, but this also happened slowly. It was also a process, the shift. But yeah, during a match, not shouting or not over celebrating was a conscious effort, and I think it was really helping.
Yeah, I mean, quite clearly. I mean, it does help you a lot. Like even when you won those big Super Series titles, the one thing which strikes out with you, especially for me, and with something which I was looked up to you, that one is your ability to be neutral, and the second is that even when you lose a match, you will, embrace your opponent the same way if you won a match, which is something which stands out in you because sometimes athletes, if they win, they go and they hug the opponents. And but with in your case, even if you lose, when you lose a match, obviously, and nobody wants to lose, and everybody feels so bad inside when you lose. But to keep that all aside, and to keep that sportsman spirit, and to still treat your opponent the same way if you win or lose, I think that is something which you excel at. And that is something, I think, that is why you also command a lot of respect in the circuit. I've seen a lot of European players. I've seen a lot of Chinese players also, for that matter. When they win, they meet you very, very well. But if they lose, Esa, they just give you that hand. It is like a formality touch, and then they go. But with you, you actually wish them luck in the next round. Again, something a very conscious effort.
See, again, it is a very conscious effort. And see, the thing is, for me, it's very simple. If I win, I'm really very happy. Again, if I lose, I'm also if I give my 100%, I'm very happy. See, there'll be days that when your opponents will play better than you. You have to accept the fact. You have to work on your negatives or on your mistakes, and then get better the next day. So if I've lost a match, it's just that either I haven't played well or I wasn't up to the mark with the opponent. So either of it, it's my problem. It's not an opponent's problem. So I just go, talk to them normally after a match, and then it's up to me, and then I really go back and then work on my game, and then get back better the next time. And then I try, and if I lose against a particular opponent, and when I'm playing him the next time, I try and analyze this match and then go in. So yeah, it's not that I give him too much respect. The next time I play him, I really want to win.
Yeah.
But if I lose, I give him the respect that he played well.
I think it's something which a lot of the upcoming athletes should take this, that you may not get Srikanth's ability on court or whatever. Maybe you can, I mean, not just yours, any player, I mean, any athlete, but you can definitely develop on what Srikanth has developed over the years. So yeah, fantastic. Now go on, Tanvi.
First of all, श्रीकांत बाबा थोड़ा सा आशीर्वाद दे दो. इतने ज्ञानी कब बन गए? But on another note, important 2020 was an important year. 2021 is now an important critical year. How did you deal with the whole postponement of the Olympics, and now again, the whole qualification process? How are you dealing with it mentally and physically?
So I was very happy to hear the news that Olympics got postponed, frankly.
I think it came at the right moment for you.
Yeah, see, the first tournament in the Olympic qualification was Sudirman Cup, where I got injured. And, for next 3-4 months, I couldn't really play. And then the year ended very low. I only played one semi-finals that year in a Super Series event. And 2020 also, I couldn't really start off well. So for me, that came at a very right moment. I really got that break that I needed. I really worked on my body, on my injury part, and the correct time, the new Indonesian coach has come, Agus. So, and then I was training with a different trainer during that lockdown time, and he's also helped me a lot, about the injury part. And yeah, and post lockdown, I started training again in August, and it was really nice. I felt really good, going back on court, having that 3-4 months time. I really worked on myself, and then I was feeling much better. About from 2019, say May, until 2020 Jan, I was kind of in that injury phase where I know I am having that pain, and if I train about 50-60%, I'm fine. And if I train for 50-60% and go to a tournament, I'm not able to play the way I wanted. And then I'm coming back and pushing myself, I'm getting injured. Then I'm again trying to train at that 50-60%, going into a tournament, not able to play the way I wanted.
Cycle is going on and on.
And then I'm coming back, and then I'm trying to push myself, I'm getting injured again. So I was in that phase where I didn't know what to do. If I should train at 50-60%, or if I should push myself, or if I should wait for my injury to get better. But the issue is that the Olympic qualification, if it was post Olympics, or if it was any other year other than the Olympic qualification year, I would have taken probably say 6-8 months break, and then I would have come back, because I know that even if I go to a 40-50 rank, I can still come back to that top 8. But here I didn't have time. I didn't know what to do. But I think this break has really given me that time.
Anything specific you've changed in your off-court training?
Nothing. I'm actually training much better now. I'm able to run now. From that 2019 until 2020, I couldn't even run. But now I'm able to run, which is a big jump for me. So I'm really quite happy with the way I've been able to train, since the lockdown.
How's the new regime with the new Indonesian coach Angus? How are you feeling? Things are improving with him.
I think I can see a lot of difference in my game since the time I started training with him. So I'm very happy, and I'm very confident that I'll get much better from here. I can see that in Denmark. I can see that in Thailand, where I played very few matches again. I could again see that in Swiss. So I could see that change in me. I'm playing much better than what I was playing before. So things will definitely take time, but I'm really happy with the progress that I've been doing.
Yeah, I mean that's all you can. That's all you would like to do, right? You would want to trust the process, as you are quite clearly in that zone that you want to trust the process, and the results will come. One very important result though, last year, it wasn't your preferred event. This was in Philippines, where in the Asian Team Championships, you stepped on and played doubles with Chirag Shetty, because Satvik was not there, and a fantastic result against Thailand, against Thailand, which actually got the medal. I mean, the listeners don't really know the background of your doubles play. Obviously, you started off as a doubles player, and then you've got medals at the Youth Commonwealth Games. But how was the whole experience of playing doubles for India in a pressure cooker match against Thailand? How was it like playing with Chirag?
First of all, I didn't go into that tournament thinking I'll play doubles.
You were also playing your singles, and then you came back to play doubles.
Yeah. So, and then even that day I played singles.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I play with Chirag here in the practice, so we know how each other, how both of us play. And yeah, it was fun, playing there, because I haven't really played too many senior tournaments and doubles. So it was quite fun. And then to play quarters of a team championships, it was really fun. I really enjoyed it. And then also the advantage that I had is that I didn't have any pressure. The Thailand players had that pressure because they're playing against a singles opponent. And then when doubles players are playing against a singles opponent, you clearly have that edge. So it's that I again feel that they felt that pressure a bit, and then I just enjoyed, and then Chirag really helped me a lot during that match. I think he's been very supportive throughout. It wasn't easy. Also, it was a 3 games. It was a close match, so I think it's really helped me a lot in the whole match.
For all those out there, Srikanth, because singles and doubles players practice differently, Srikanth would always come on Saturdays and make sure he would play bet matches with us and steal all of our money. Because if not for a top singles player, he would have definitely become a top doubles player as well. It would have gone either way. He went the singles route. That's a different thing. But one thing's for sure, he is right up there as one of the best doubles players, even currently in India, if given a chance to play more regularly.
Yeah, I think there are better doubles players now. When I was in my juniors, I think I was playing really well. But now at the moment, I think there are much better doubles players.
You're just being modest. But yeah, I'll give that to you. You're a modest guy. So I'll give that to you. I mean, for you and Chirag to pair up and to beat as good as those Thai pair, I don't think any other singles player would have probably done that. I could be wrong. But yeah, it is just that you've got an edge with doubles also. That's the whole.
I think it just worked for us that day. You never know. If we play again, probably next month or next year, I don't know what might happen. So that day it worked, and then it was an important match as well. So we are just very happy with the result. That's it.
Okay. So Srikanth, 2 questions from our fans, the Millennial Athlete fans. One is, of course, okay, I'll start with the less fun one first. So does Kidambi Srikanth plan to set up an academy, get into coaching at some point?
See, at the moment, I am thinking about playing until 2024 or 2025, probably another 5 years from now. So I'm not really thinking too much about the academy and everything. I'm more focused about getting better and playing well the next 5 years. So 5 years is a very long time, I feel, and we don't know what will happen after 5 years.
Okay. And the second one, all the keeping in mind all his sporting accolades aside, we want to know whether Kidambi is going to get married anytime soon. This is I think if one of our female fans has sent this. Is he single? Is he going to get married? She's asked me 4 questions. I was like, okay, I will put this on the podcast.
See, in general, in South India, there is this ritual where elder brother gets married first.
Very diplomatic.
Very conveniently you put it on Nandu.
So I have an elder brother is still yet to get married. It might happen this year, or maybe next year, or maybe the following year. And then she can ask me after my brother gets married.
Such a nice deflection. Just how he converts the smashes on court. He's easily deflected this question and he's put it on Nandu.
So this is a very easy question for me. I've been asked this question everywhere I go, and then Nandu was there to block or to shield me from all these types of questions, because it's an easy answer for me. I don't see it, not even a 1% difficulty in answering that question.
Good man.
Off the record, we better ask him this question again.
I'm not even going to ask him off the record. But since we are talking about family, it's been a while. You've been on the road for a very long time before COVID, and then everything, there's a break and you get a chance to spend so much time again with your family. How has the whole experience been for you to spend? You must have spent a lot more time with your parents and with your brother during the whole lockdown. How was it?
Yeah, see, I moved to Hyderabad in 2009, and then my brother was here, and then mom and dad still used to be in Guntur. So I kind of always been with Nandu, or at least till my juniors, because wherever the junior tournaments used to happen, Nandu also used to travel the junior tournaments. So I kind of been with Nandu for most part of it. Uh, and then my parents moved to Hyderabad in 2017, end of 2017. So since then, I'm kind of being able to stay with them, but not continuously, because I've been playing tournaments, and then I used to play about 16, 17, or maybe sometimes 20 tournaments a year, which means about half an year. But this pause, which has happened last year, I think it really gave the time for me and Nandu, both of us, to stay with my parents. So both of us stayed for about 3 months or 3.5 months in a stretch. I think it last happened probably when I was 5, 6, or 7, because me or Nandu, one of us used to travel always. He used to go for junior tournaments, or I used to go for sub-junior tournaments. He used to go for senior tournaments, or I used to go for junior tournaments. Then I started traveling for senior tournaments. Then he used to travel for other set of tournaments. So both of us never stayed with my parents together. Like all four of us were never together for a long periods of time. Might probably 4 or 5 days a week. So suddenly we got that 3.5 months, and we kind of really had a lot of fun. We kind of played caroms together. We kind of played snookers together. So it was a lot of fun. We kind of watched movies together. So like my father and mother, they don't really go to theaters and watch movies. So during this lockdown, everything has become an OTT thing. So that has also helped again. So we were able to watch new movies the first day, to have that theater experience and everything. So it was kind of a really fun 3.5 months.
And that is absolutely great to know, because as athletes, because we travel so much, we tend to miss out so much on family life, and family plays a big role in the sacrifice. I mean, the sacrifice your parents have made is immense, and it goes under the radar sometimes when, as an athlete, you win everything, but it goes under the radar, the kind of sacrifices your family makes. Another fun fact, Shrikant's elder brother, Nand Gopal, and I have played doubles for a couple of seasons as well. So we've also got one more link there. On that note, IPL is going to come now. You are a big Talla fan, a big MS Dhoni fan. I want to know where your loyalties lie: Sunrisers or Chennai Super Kings?
See, it's CSK for sure. There's no doubt. I've been a CSK fan from 2008. And if CSK is not playing, and if Hyderabad is playing, I'll support Hyderabad, because it's again a state team. So that state thing will always be there. But if CSK is playing, it will be CSK for sure.
I mean, that's fair enough. I mean, Talla is Talla, and I mean, I'm a big MS fan. Nobody can really beat MS. The fun fact: Shrikant is also a very good batsman. He's a very good opening batsman. Whenever we used to play the academy matches, where it used to be more like World War, but Shrikant would always open the batting and would always be the first picks in the draft. So yeah, some good moments back in the academy when all of us used to play cricket together. So yeah, the Shrikant is quite the opening batsman also. And obviously his brother was the fastest bowler. You would never want to piss him off, because he would bowl so fast and probably break your legs. But Shrikant would be icy cool when he would bat also.
I used to make sure that he's always on my team.
Yeah.
I don't really want to injure myself playing cricket.
True, man.
Awesome.
Anything else, Sanvi?
No, I think all good.
Yes. So on that note, we come to an end of our very special 25th episode of the Millennial Athlete with Tanvi and Shlok. If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to all of them on the IVM podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow IVM on the social media handle, that is @IVM Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, please do. I am on Instagram and Twitter with the handle SHLOKH95.
And you can write to me on @TanviLad93 on Instagram and Twitter.
And you can find Srikanth anywhere
Everywhere.
on Twitter and Instagram. Very active there also. Once again, thank you so much, Sri, taking out time from a busy schedule. I know you're preparing for the India Open, which is due in some time. Really hoping for a good, strong performance. And if not, a strong performance is just around the corner.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Tanvi.
Yeah. Until then, ciao.
Awesome.
We shall be back very soon with another fresh episode of the Millennial Athlete with Tanvi and Shlok. Thank you so much.